Коротка була в нас перерва між сесіями, але все тому, що насправді на GDG DevFest Ukraine є дуже багато класних спікерів. І моя наступна співрозмовниця Joanna Chwastowska, representing DeepMind, and she's experienced Google developer. She has 9+ years experience of working at Google. And now you're doing DeepMind, right? Am I right? Hello, first.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about your professional experience? So, you have, as I said, you have 9 years of working at Google. What did you do there?
So I think I had this unique opportunity after graduating from computer science that Google actually opened the first engineering office in Poland. And at that point I joined, and it was a great feeling to be able to build the office from scratch and grow it to over like 140 people during, as you said, like over 8 years. And then see new offices open in Poland, because right now there's also engineering in Warsaw that took over all the projects and is still growing and is hiring. So I think it was a great adventure, and it was very much similar to how startups work right now.
That's what I wanted to ask. Was it like a startup experience with a lot of failures and, starting overs, or, Google, like a big enterprise, came in and told you, let's put up an office?
No, so it wasn't that. When we were starting, Google was actually much more startup-y than it is right now. It was still a very fast-growing company. So as I said, it was very much as a startup works right now. Then, last 2 years, to compare, I've been building the startup office in Krakow as well. So you can try to compare how those two worlds work. And I think the main difference is in what for are you hiring people? Because at Google, you want people with some generic attitude towards learning, because you never know what projects they'll be working on at any given point in time. Whereas in startup, you sometimes hire people just because you have this huge hole that you need to, you have to fill in to find exactly the person for the role. But also to have people who are really eager to learn new things and take on the different roles. So sometimes you hire an engineer, but for, 3 months, half a year, they will be doing just some coding, but mostly, for example, integration, just because that is critical for the startup. So what I really enjoy in a startup world is the focus people have to have on the goal, which sometimes, if you work for a bigger company, it's easier to lose track of. So,
as far as I know, you reside right now in United States, right?
No, in London.
Oh, in London, sorry. But originally you're from Krakow and from Poland. Krakow is like 300 kilometers away from Lviv. Have you ever been to Ukraine before?
Yes,
probably yes.
I visited Kyiv. We had this amazing program that was actually an American NGO organizing tech trainings for NGOs in Ukraine. So actually empowering them with technology in order to bring positive change.
So my question is, how does the 300 kilometers is actually nothing? It's no distance, especially in technology world. But this border between EU and non-EU country, does this influence on the community? Is there any difference between Polish and Ukrainian tech communities? Do you see these differences?
I think actually I have huge respect for Ukrainian community. I have been, taking part in conferences, met people around the world, and definitely, both Polish and Ukrainian developers are super highly rated everywhere they go. I think both of us, we put a lot of heart into what we are doing. We really commit ourselves. We want to be the best of the best, and it's visible at work. You don't get this attitude 8 to 4 and I'm done here. You get like, what can I do to succeed for all of us? So that's fantastic. I think that like actually, trying to compare the environments, I think they are pretty similar. It's like a lot of things are going on. The border moves more and more towards east. Right now, it's like, it was at some point, it was just Berlin. That was like the end of the startup scene.
Maybe Prague.
Then like, Warsaw and Krakow as well. And I looking at Lviv right now, it seems like, there is so much technology happening here. There are so many companies, so many developers. It's great. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to just be a part of Europe, regardless of where the border of EU is.
Well, let's talk about women in tech a little bit. Because GDG does a lot of work to engage more women in technology. They have this community, Women Tech Makers, and you are one of the women speakers in here. Do you think, what should we do, or what way should we work with women to engage them more into technology, especially in the traditional states like Poland and Ukraine are? Because for a lot of time we had this cliche in our minds that women belong at home with kids, and stuff like that. How should we work to change this attitude?
So I think you've said a very important thing. I think it all starts at home. I think I'm in technology just because in my home, no one ever told me I should not be. So, my parents were treating myself and my brother really equally. We were both in a garage fixing the motorcycle with my dad. And it never occurred to me I should not be a software engineer, basically. So I was really surprised when I went to the university and there was like, 10, maybe 15% of women starting on 180 people year, right? So I was like, okay, something is really off here. But like really, I think right now women are not in technology just because how hard sometimes it is to be in technology. It's like if you are one of the given kind, and it's regardless, like, if you are women, if you are a different color of the skin, if you are a different nation, different accent, like if you are this only different person, it's very, very hard to, feel same confident. You almost feel like you have to be twice as good to survive and prove yourself because, you are this different species.
It seems like all we have to do is to establish equal rights and equal opportunities for everybody to start this. So if I go and do my work as a developer, I don't have to prove that my code is good because it's good. Well, I'm a woman, I can write a good code.
You know that there was this blind test done where they were comparing the quality of the code written. And if people didn't know who wrote the code, women code was actually rated higher.
So
when there was a name attached to the code, the same thing was rated lower just because there was a female name on the code. So
that's a prejudice.
There are biases in the environment. The good thing is people are more and more aware of that. And I think we really are on the verge of the change. We really see those things happening. We see companies caring for that. I have a lot of guys, friends who really care for that, who are the ones actually naming and calling out in the room if someone behaves the way they should not be behaving. And yeah, I think, in time, the more women we have in IT, the easier it will be for the next ones to just join. They will not have to, break those barriers that hard. It's the same, like, in the past we've seen that happening, like, with women fighting for votes. Right now it's obvious we can vote, right? But,
100 years ago, it wasn't that obvious.
And, don't get me wrong, there's still so much to do. It's like if women are expected, especially in our conservative cultures, if women are expected to, you're okay if you have a job, but at the same time you have to take care of all the household, cooking, children, everything. How can we be on the same terms? It's like either we start to be partners in workforce and partners in life.
In family,
yeah. Or, I don't know. I see a lot of independent women around myself. I feel empowered by that. I feel really we can still improve and do a lot in this area.
And let's leave all the cooking and washing and cleaning to the technology.
Exactly.
Previously we've been talking to Martin and we spoke a little bit about the future of technology. You work in the DeepMind, you work with the artificial intelligence, and maybe you know something about the future of the technology. I assume, this is just my assumption. Do you?
There is this saying that, predicting is very hard, especially when it's about the future. So I'm far from guessing what will happen. But what I see is actually us having more and more ability to do things we would never thought about, 50 years ago. Sometimes you read books that were written in like 1950s, and they are about fantasy worlds in 2030. And we are actually doing some of those things already. It's like we are not teleporting people yet, I hope, because
we don't have flying cars yet.
We don't have flying cars yet, but we have so many planes. It's like, if you look around in here, we are in Lviv, but we have people from around the world who probably traveled here last 2 days. From Mexico, from, probably we even have someone from Australia, if I'm to guess. Mm-hmm. So it's like the world is right now so much smaller, right? Everything is so much closer. We can learn each other, we can see and appreciate our differences. And I think technology will actually just help. I really hope that technology will help us to embrace that. If you look at recently announced Google headphones with instant translation, right? Mm-hmm. It's something from the future. It's something that will allow people who don't speak the same language to communicate. Our generation already speaks English as a second language almost, mm-hmm. By default. But there are so many people on the planet who don't. How do we enable them with technology to be a part of this advancement? It's like, if they only can learn from English books in their native language, do you know how much faster they can learn? How much they can advance their lives? They will be able to get better jobs, mm-hmm. and get out of poverty and, drive this change in their countries. So, we are super lucky, I think. We were born in countries that are already almost the first world, we are solving first world problems, but we have to keep in mind that there are people who are still, starving on this planet, who are...
That's what I wanted to ask you about. There is a kind of a big, a void between the Western civilization, so-called, and people who live, for example, in Africa. And there are even some tribes in Southern America, South America, that haven't socialized yet. So, what will be with these kind of groups? With these groups,
what really gives me hope is observing how large companies behave, how socially aware they are. If you look at Facebook, they have Chan Zuckerberg initiative, right? They are trying to really advance the education around the world. If you look at Bill Gates, he accomplished something in his life. Now he's trying to improve lives of people in Africa, right? Just moving their basic needs, mm-hmm. to be met. And the same, Google launched Google.org and is trying to build more and more initiatives that will bridge the technology gap. Mm-hmm. Cheaper phones is one of the solutions. Internet everywhere on the planet is mm-hmm. another. If people can communicate, people can support each other. They can react in case of, emergency, mm-hmm. Hurricanes, earthquakes. All that, really, really helps. And we have to think and design products and solutions for the conditions that we do not live in. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think, if we forget about it, the risk is we will have those two totally separate groups of people on this planet, and we'll lose in a way as a humanity.
It will be risky business to have this. You work in DeepMind, and you combine, work with artificial intelligence and in the healthcare industry. What are the news up there? Will we beat these diseases like cancer and AIDS anytime soon?
So I think there is still a lot ahead of us. We are just beginning. What is amazing is that we are starting to have those conversations. We are bringing to the table, conversations about what is ethical, how we're gonna approach AI in different sectors of our lives. Self-driving cars are one of the good examples. It's like, we are discussing how we're gonna make sure that self-driving car makes the correct decision. And the question is what the correct decision is. And if we really believe the human being in half a second can make this decision better than something we can discuss on a broader audience and, decide how the car should behave. So for me personally, bringing better technology and bringing change to healthcare is super important, just because so many deaths can be avoided. Mm-hmm. We know how we could do it. It's just right now, the personnel in hospitals, they are trying to do their best. Sometimes they do not have enough resources, sometimes they do not have enough time, sometimes they are just simply too tired to properly analyze the situation they are in. If we can support that, I'm not talking about replacing them, I'm just talking about how we make their lives easier, how we enable them to make better decisions or to make them faster or have more context for the decisions they are making, right? So, it's just beginning, but I really, really believe we will get there. Mm-hmm. And on the other thing that you asked, it's like, we hear about scientists from around the world working on bigger and bigger data sets of, medical imagery, brain scans, mm-hmm. specific, cancer detections. Mm-hmm. If potentially we can detect those earlier than right now human doctors can, wouldn't that be amazing? Like just learning the algorithms to be sensitive enough to help us early.
So does the technology influence on, for example, medical sphere, the healthcare, that much that doctor right now has to be a little bit of a tech person? Do you think that the profile of the people changes a bit? So you don't just study physiology, how the human body works, the organs, but you have to be aware of how technology works so we can help you.
So I think the short answer is, right now, yes, we are forcing them to be more technically savvy. But if you ask me, is that the correct approach? I think no. We should think about technology as a mean to achieve a given goal. We should make technology and our solutions that we build and products so easy to use, so intuitive to use, also so adjusted to the environment they will be used in, that they are very natural. Like, the example could be, if you ask the doctor to fill in some spreadsheet with the data, the chances they will make an error are very high. Mm-hmm. If, on the other hand, you make the app that is super easy to use and also has the error, like it understands
error
the
detecting
domain.
machine.
Yes, exactly. And it's actually aware of the domain the doctor is entering the data for, and can emphasize, are you sure this is the correct data? Mm-hmm. How much safer for the patient that is, right? How much easier for the doctor to learn to use this new tool and actually use it every day, mm-hmm. instead of just falling back to the old behaviors and patterns. So I think there is a great area right now for people like product managers, engineers, to designers to brainstorm and figure out better ways of mm-hmm. incorporating technology into industry.
I have a question about once more about a little bit about the future of the technology and the threats it might bring. Because, for example, Elon Musk, everybody has heard about it probably. He's a little bit concerned that technology can get away from the human control and eventually might even destroy it, because these chatbots, they have invented their own language, and it's what do you think? Is it possible? Or is it just his fears?
No. So I think everything is possible. For me, surprising part is that he has so much trust in human race, actually, that he believes humans will not destroy humans, because for me that's much more likely than that machine will destroy us. We still have more control over machines than we have over ourselves, if you look at the planet. Like, there is so much nuclear weapon around the planet, so many people who can just evaporate all of us. That no, but I think that the important part is we should be having those conversations. This is important to actually think through different scenarios. Be ready for what can happen. Think about how we can cooperate with artificial intelligence instead of putting it as us and them in a way, and
using
imagining
it
future
very in a
wars.
restrictive way. Like here I will use it, and here I'm afraid.
Yes, I think I try to see things more for the potential they have than the threats they are. But so the question is nuclear energy. Should we have never worked on it because of the threats we've built right now and we impose on the planet? Right? Should this work would be stopped in 1940s? Right? We pursued it, and right now we have renewable sources of energy because of that. Right? So there are good outcomes of it. The question is how we control the possible bad outcomes. And this is more question on humanity and our approach rather than artificial intelligence itself.
Due to the technology, the rhythm of life has gotten even faster. And the time, passes like this. Does this mean that it will get even faster so we cannot stop? Or will we still have time, I don't know, just to sit around and chill a little bit? Or we are just, forced to run forever?
I don't think we are forced to do anything. There is nothing that, forces you to open your phone and use Facebook in the morning. Somehow it happens that you decide to do so or not. So I think definitely what this new world requires from us is much more self-awareness and self-control. It's us who own the time. It's us who own where we put our focus, where we put our effort, what is important for us. And I think that actually the biggest problem I see is that people don't think about it. We just choose the easy option. We do what others do. We do what's simpler for us, low energy activities. It's easier to sit on a sofa and watch the football game than to go and play the game, right? So for me, we are creating this division of people who are actually actively pursuing dreams and people who are just followers. But I don't think technology is to blame. I think, again, it's only us. Sorry.
Technology is not that mighty as we might think about it. Well, that's the one thing that we should all kind of take into consideration. You are delivering your presentation tomorrow. Can you give us a hint what it will be about?
Sure.
Like a little announcement for our listeners and watchers on Facebook.
This is a very technical conference. There is a lot of software engineers, developers, people who use technology and create technology every day. What I want to close this conference with is an attempt to try to figure out how, instead of just producing more code and more applications, how we build bigger things, how we scale ourselves up, how we have more impact, and in the areas where we want to have this impact. So actually have a bit of look into how we can achieve great things as groups of people. There is this notion that software engineers are rather close, rather isolated people, but we cannot build great things alone. How we start to communicate better, how we scale ourselves better, how we, basically become 100 times more impactful than we are at the moment. And actually Google had made a lot of research in this area, figuring out what are the features of the best managers, what makes them so impactful. So I will try to work with all of us to maybe...
I bet the people who will attend your presentation will go out very inspired, will find tons of inspiration for their future careers and their like routine work as well. Joanna, thank you very much for this conversation. It was extremely insightful for me, and I hope for everybody who was listening to us. And later we'll have a chance to play it because it was recorded thanks to technology. Good luck with your tomorrow's presentation. Have fun at this event, and all the best with what you're doing and how you're changing the world.
Thank you very much.
Я нагадую нашим слухачам і глядачам, що в нас в гостях була Joanna Chwastowska, яка працює зараз в компанії DeepMind і займається питаннями охорони здоров'я там, але до того вже 9 років працювала в краківському офісі компанії Google, є провідним експертом у цій царині і галузі, і завтра буде доповідати на конференції GDG DevFest, на якій ми сьогодні з вами є. Я є Леся Манзевич, Артем Галицький зі мною, Андрій Чемес сидить за комп'ютером, їжачок і багато всіляких цікавостей, тому залишайтеся з нами.
Окей, Google. Що цікавого про технології буде в Україні цієї осені?
Найпопулярніший результат GDG DevFest